In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make the Floral Cardigan. This is a beautiful cardigan made with Bella Coco Merino, and the pattern is available in 8 different sizes, ranging from extra small up to 5X. This pattern is available on my blog, but it's also available as a premium printable PDF, which is completely ad-free. I'll leave all of the links in the description box below so that you can go and check those out, because you will be needing to work alongside the written pattern whilst using this video to get the information for all of the different sizes. I'm going to be making the size medium in this video, but I'll also give you the details that you need to know in order to make the different sizes, and everything that I show you will be able to be used for all of the sizes. In this pattern, I have used Bella Coco Merino in 4 different shades. I have used cream, buttermilk, tea green and bubblegum for my pattern, but of course you can use whichever colours you prefer, and this would also look stunning in just one shade throughout. You will need a pair of scissors and a darning needle when it comes to sewing in your ends, and you will also need a tape measure for measuring and also checking your gauge. We will be using 2 different crochet hooks. So for my pattern, I'm using a 4 and a 4.5mm crochet hook, but this will vary depending on what size you are choosing to do. You'll need to take a look at that written pattern for the sizing instructions, and I am going to go through with you to show you which hook size you will need for the size of granny square that you'll be doing for your chosen size. So before we get started on the square itself, I just want to talk to you about the different size squares within this pattern. Depending on what size you select will depend on what hook size that you use, and that's going to determine the size of square that you are going to make. And that's the way this pattern has been designed, to be able to give a wide range of sizes. For example, with the medium, which I am making my sample in, I am using this size square using a 4.5mm. So we have 4 different size squares. We have the first square, which is using a 3.5mm, and this is going to measure 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches after 5 rounds. This one, made with a 4mm crochet hook, is going to measure 3.75 inches by 3.75 inches after the 5 rounds. This one here is made with a 4.5mm crochet hook, and it measures 4 inches by 4 inches after 5 rounds. And then this one here is made using a 5mm crochet hook and measures 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So as I say, all of these have their 5 rounds. However, when we come to work the pattern, we're going to do only 4 rounds first of all, and then the 5th round is going to be added using the continuous join as you go method. For the gauge swatch, I'm going to show you how to do those 5 rounds so that you can check your gauge. However, you can just take away that 5th round once you're finished and then use that as one of your squares. Please don't skip the gauge swatch. It's really important that you are getting it correct and you're coming out at your intended size for the size that you have chosen. And this is going to be really important for making sure that your garment fits. So go ahead, choose your size, find out which hook size you are needing to use for your selected size, and then let's get into making the gauge swatch. So we're going to take our first colour, in my case this is the buttermilk, and we're going to go ahead and start with a magic ring. So for a magic ring, you want to bring the tail end over your finger like so, wrap it round to make an X, and then you have your 2 strands on the top like so. Insert your hook under that first strand and then pull the working strand through and twist your hook so that you're ready to make a stitch. We're going to go ahead and begin with our chain 3, so we can just yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through, and then we can take our finger out And there we have our magic circle started and our first chain 3. So this chain 3 is going to count as our first stitch, so a treble crochet. In the US this is known as a double crochet. And then we're going to work another treble crochet, US double crochet, into this center circle. So that's yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, you'll have 2 loops on the hook, and yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We then have a pattern repeat, so we're going to chain 1 and then work 2 more treble crochets, which is US double crochets, into the circle. So that's 1 and 2, and we're going to do that pattern repeat 7 times in total. So we've just done our first, chain 1 and 2 trebles, 1 and 2, that's our second repeat, chain 1, 2 trebles, 1 and 2, that's our third repeat, chain 1, 2 trebles, 1 and 2, that's our fourth repeat, chain 1, 2 trebles, that's our fifth repeat, chain 1, 2 trebles, that's our sixth repeat. I'm just going to pull on my tail end just a little bit here, chain 1, 2 trebles, and that's the 7th and final repeat. And then we're going to finish by chaining 1 and then slip stitching into the top of that first chain 3 to join the round. And then we can go ahead and fasten off. Pull out our yarn like so, and then all we have left to do is pull on that first tail end to pull that ring closed. Okay, so we're now ready to move on to the next round. Now what I like to do, and this is totally optional, is just turn your work round and take this tail end and go through the tops of the stitches back the other way in order to weave those tail ends in. And I just find that this makes it much easier rather than sewing in a huge amount of ends at the end. So I've just done it one way and then I'll just go back a couple the other way. You won't see this as you're working, but it just makes it a little bit easier for you. I'm just going to work it until we get to a point where we're in a chain space, like so. You may also want to weave in your center tail end at this point as well, so it's already done. But for now, this is your round 1. We're now ready to move on to round 2, and for this we'll be using the pink. So for round 2, you're going to make a slip knot and insert your crochet hook, and then we're going to join where we have just taken that tail end up to. So we're going to insert our hook and then join with a slip stitch, so yarn over, pull through. Now at this point you've got 2 options. We are going to start with a chain 3 like so, which is going to count towards the next stitch that we're making. However, I'm going to weave in this end a little bit as I'm working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the tail end as well and then yarn over and pull through with the tail end and then drop the tail end down. And then yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through to create my chain 3. But as I say, this is optional. This is just what I like to do to save myself a bit of time when it comes to weaving in ends. And because the yarn is entwined within the stitches, it does make it really secure. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work a double treble crochet, which is a US treble crochet. We're going to yarn over the hook twice, insert into the hook, yarn over, pull through. You'll have 4 loops on the hook. I'm just going to show you this normally first. We're going to yarn over, pull through 2, you'll have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, that's 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook, and that has created our double treble. Now that in combination with this chain 3 makes our first double treble 2 together, which is treble 2 together in US terms. I'm just going to take out that stitch, and I'm just going to show you what I do to weave in these ends a little bit more. So that's yarn over the hook twice, insert, yarn over, pull through, you'll have 4 loops on the hook. This first pull through, we're going to grab the tail end as well, and yarn over, pull through, drop the tail end, and then finish off that stitch, like so. And now we're going to do a full double treble 2 together, which in US terms is treble 2 together. So we're going to yarn over the hook twice, insert, yarn over, pull through, 4 loops on the hook. I'm just going to pick up my tail end once more, and then yarn over, pull through 2. You don't have to pick up the tail end if you don't want to. Yarn over, pull through 2, and then leave those 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over the hook twice, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook. So we now have 2 double treble 2 together, and that creates our petal. So now we're going to have a little pattern repeat. We're going to chain 1, we're going to skip 2 stitches, which is these 2 stitches just here, and then we're going to work 2 double treble 2 together in this chain 1 space. So that's yarn over the hook twice, into that chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, leave those 2 loops on the hook, yarn over the hook twice, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 3. And we'll do that again. Yarn over the hook twice, insert, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, leave 2 on the hook, yarn over the hook twice, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then pull through all 3 loops on the hook. We're now going to create a corner, so we're going to chain 2 this time, so we'll chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then we're going to work that 2 double treble 2 together into this next chain 1 space. So yarn over the hook twice, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, leave those 2 loops on the hook, yarn over the hook twice, pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 3, and then just do that once more, leaving 2 loops on the hook, and then pulling through those final 3 loops. So we're going to work that all the way round. So this time we're going to just chain 1, we'll work a petal, and then chain 2, work a petal, chain 1, work a petal. You'll work all the way round until you get to your last chain 1 space, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now you've worked your way round, you've done your last petal, we're going to end by chaining 2, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of the first stitch. So if you remember, we did a chain 3 and then a double treble, and that counted as 1 stitch. So we'll find that very first stitch just here, yarn over and pull through, and you can go ahead and fasten off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to turn my work and then weave in this end a little bit again. As I say, this is optional. You can leave it and just sew it in the traditional way if you prefer. This is what I like to do to save myself a bit of time and do it as I go along, because you are going to have a lot of squares. So I'm going to turn it back the other way and then work it through the tops. And I'm going to find my way until I get to a chain 2 space. Like so. I'm just going to flip it round and then come through that chain 2 space from the front to the back so that my tail end is at the back, like so. So we now want to take our next colour, which is the green. For me this is tea green. And we'll do round 3, so you want to create your slip knot, insert your hook, and we're going to add this to any chain 2 space. So for me, I'm going to choose the chain 2 space where I have just taken this tail end to, or weaved in the end, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch. Now you can tie these 2 tail ends together if you want for an extra little bit of security. I'm just going to leave mine as it is. And then we're going to begin by chaining 3, but I'm going to catch my tail end for that first chain. You don't have to do that. And chain 2 more, 1 and 2. This is going to count as your first treble crochet, which is a US double crochet. And we're going to be making the corner space here. So we're going to make 2 granny sets with a chain 2 in between. So we'll start off with our first treble, which is yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops, but for this I'm just going to again pick up that tail end. Completely optional for you, and just pull that through those first 2 loops. And then yarn over, pull through, and then again yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through. I'm just going to catch it once more because I have enough of my tail end to do so. And then yarn over, pull through. So we have our 3 trebles. We're going to chain 2 for this corner. And then we're going to work another 3 trebles, which is US double crochets, into that same space. Okay, so we have 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles. Into this chain 1 space, we're just going to work 3 trebles. 2 and 3. And then into the chain 2 space, we're going to work a corner. So 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles. And you're going to work that all the way around. So 3 trebles into the chain 1 space, and then a corner into the chain 2 space, which is 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles. Work your way round until this last chain 1 space, and then meet me back once you're ready. So you've now worked your way round. You're going to go ahead and join with the slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round, and you can go ahead and fasten off. And again, I'm just going to turn my work and weave in that tail end through a few of the stitches. And then I'm going to turn it back the other way and work my way to that corner chain 2 space. Pull that through so it's facing the back. And with these shorter ends here, I know that they are woven in, so I'm just going to snip those off. The only one that I don't take off is the center one because we haven't sewn that in as of yet. Okay, so we're now ready for round 4. As I said before, this round is going to be where you stop when you create all of your squares, but we are going to add a further 5th round for our gauge swatch. So I'm going to join with a slip stitch into that corner chain 2 space, and then we're going to start off with a chain 3, and as I have been doing, I'm going to bring that tail end through on that first chain, drop it down and chain 2 more. So that's our first one. We're going to create a corner again, so we're going to add 2 trebles, which is US double crochets, and I'm pulling that tail end through on that first pull through 2. And then I'll just do that once more, but you could just do straight trebles if you wanted to, which is US double crochets. So that's our set of 3 trebles, chain 2, and then 3 trebles, 1, 2, and 3. So we've created our corner. We're then going to do 3 trebles into the next space between granny sets, 2 and 3, and then 3 trebles in the next space between granny sets, 2 and 3, and then you're going to go ahead and create your corner into this chain 2 space, which is 3 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles, which of course is US double crochets. Go ahead, work your way around, working your 3 sets along the edges and then your corner spaces, and then meet me back once you're ready. So once you've worked your way around, you're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of that beginning chain 3 and go ahead and fasten off. And again, I'm going to weave in how I have been. And then snip off the last round. And there you have your 4 rounds, which you're going to be making lots of. How many will depend on the size that you are making. But we're just going to add this next round, which you can undo and reuse the yarn if you want to after we've measured. But we're going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch to our corner space. Now I'm not worried too much about sewing in the ends on this one because I will be undoing it and reusing it for my cardigan. So we're going to chain 3 and then add 2 more treble crochets, which is US double crochets. Now when we actually do the join as you go, we are going to be chaining 3 in this corner. It's up to you whether you want to do 3 or 2. I'll just do 3 because that's what we're going to be doing. And you'll see why when we get to the join as you go. It just helps with making it even. It just helps when it comes to joining. So we have our 3 trebles, our chain 3, our 3 trebles, and then in every space between granny sets up to the next corner, we'll work 3 trebles, just like a normal granny square. So 3 trebles, 3 trebles, US double crochets, 3 trebles, and then work your corner, which is 3 trebles, chain 3, and 3 trebles. So you're going to work that all the way around until you get to your last space, and then meet me back once you're ready. So once you've worked your way around, you can join with a slip stitch. You can leave your yarn attached if you like, just so that you can undo that round and make sure that you're not wasting that yarn. But now what we want to do is we want to measure our swatch. So I have used the 4.5mm and mine needs to measure 10 centimeters, which is 4 inches. So if I place this across, we have 4 inches. Now just remember, we want to be blocking your squares so that the corners are nice and neat. So you might want to just press it down or you might want to block it and then measure it after, but we want to make sure that we're getting the measurement that's needed for the size that you are making. If you don't have that measurement, if your square is too big, you might want to go down half a hook size or a full hook size, depending on what size it's come out as, or you might want to go up a hook size if it's too small. But we want to be making sure that our 5 rounds of our square are going to be turning out to the size that's intended for the size that you are making. Otherwise your garment will not fit and you will have made a lot of squares and it will be very frustrating. So there is your gauge swatch. You can rewind the video and make your 4 rounds to the amount of squares that's needed for your pattern. Now I would recommend that you do all of your round ones, all of your round 2s, all of your round 3s, and then finish with all of your round 4s. And I just find that that helps with the consistency. You remember what you need to do for each round, and it's really easy to just get them done and then just keep adding to them rather than making one square at a time. But of course, it's totally up to you. So go ahead, rewind the video or pause the video, make your squares. Remember to refer to the written pattern to see how many that you need to do, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've made your squares, we're now going to join our project, and we're going to do this with the continuous join as you go method. Now you are going to need to take a look at the pattern in order to get the chart in how we're going to do this and what follow path you are going to follow. And what I mean by that is we're going to join the back panel first, then one of the front panels to that back panel, the other front panel, and then the sleeves. So this is all laid out in the PDF and also on the blog post, the charts that you're going to follow. But then there is also a follow path, which I'll just pop on the screen now, but you are going to need to have this either printed out or in front of you somehow so that you can really follow along. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to have our first row of squares, and this will differ. The amount will differ depending on which size you have done. So for me, I have 6 squares across the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our 5th round, and we're going to work across the top, then down, then back up, then down, up, down, all the way across, before then going all the way back to add that row across the bottom of this row. And then we're going to add the next row, for example, and then work our way across, and then the next row. And then we're going to add the front panels and then the sleeves. So the joining method, once you get the hang of it, is pretty easy to do, but you will need those diagrams so that you can follow the right joining path and also do the sections in the right order to make it super simple. So I'm going to go ahead now and show you how to take your first square and then add the additional squares to it, but you do need to have it in your head how many squares you're going to have for this first row. So I have my slip knot on my hook. I'm going to go ahead and join in the corner space, and I'm going to begin by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to count as our first treble, which is a US double crochet, and then I'm going to work the first 2 treble crochets into that corner space and leave the rest of that corner unworked. If you do want to add a stitch marker there, feel free to do so. It might just help you to know that that is your very first corner space, which is not finished. We will finish this right at the very end. And then we just want to work our 3 trebles US double crochets in each of these spaces all the way across, just as you would do with your normal granny square. We aren't chaining 1 between any of our stitches, just as we haven't with our round 4. So I'll just work my way across. I have sewn in most of my ends other than this very last one of the final rounds, but I think I probably will go through and do those before I actually join anymore. So when we get to the corner, we're going to work the corner as normal. We're going to do 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and work 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, and then we're going to work across this edge just as we have done before with our 3 trebles in each stitch all the way down until we get to that next corner space. However, in that corner space, we're not going to complete it. So we're in the chain 3 corner space. We're just going to work 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, but instead of going around the corner and finishing off that corner, we're now going to add in this next square. So we're going to hold this new square and we're going to find the corner space, and then we're going to work 3 trebles into that corner space, 1, 2 and 3. So now those 2 squares are connected. We're now going to continue to work up this edge, but we're going to join, oops. We're now going to continue to work up the edge of this square, but we're also going to join to this square. So rather than going straight and doing our trebles into this next stitch, we're going to go ahead and find that next space on the previous square, and we're going to slip stitch into there before we do our trebles. 1, 2 and 3. Find the next space on the previous square, slip stitch, and then work 3 trebles into that next space. Find the next space on the previous square, slip stitch, and then 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3. Find the next space, slip stitch, and at this point you might think, oh, I've gone wrong because it's not the same size, but that is completely normal, because what we're going to do now is we're going to work 3 trebles into that corner chain 3 space, and because we're joining a corner to a corner, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to replace that middle chain, because we normally chain 3, we're going to replace that middle chain with a slip stitch into the previous corner space, and then chain 1, and now we have joined those. We can finish off our corner, 1, 2 and 3. And then what we're going to do is we're going to continue to work across the top and then down the side, and then do exactly the same thing. So go ahead, pause the video, work so that you've done your trebles into the spaces, worked your corner, and then done your trebles into the spaces, and then meet me back once you get to this corner just here. Okay, so now you should be at the point before you have this corner to work. We're going to go ahead and work that corner with 3 treble crochets, which is US double crochet, chain 3, and then we are ready to add the next square. So we're going to go ahead and take that next square and work our 3 trebles into that corner space. 1, 2, and 3. And then you would continue as you've been doing before, slip stitch into the chain space from the space between the trebles on the previous square, and then work 3 treble crochets into that next stitch. Find the next space and slip stitch and work 3 trebles. Slip stitch into the next space from the previous square, 3 trebles. Into the next space from the previous square, slip stitch, and then you're at the corner space. So we'll work 3 trebles here, which is US double crochets. We're connecting to a corner now, so we're going to chain 1, replace that second chain with a slip stitch into the corner space, and then chain 1. And then finish off the corner with our 3 trebles, which are US double crochets. Because we're not joining this row at all, we can just go ahead and work our stitches across and down and add the next one. And you want to do that all the way across until you get to your last square. So add the amount of squares that you need and finish just before you get to your corner space. And I'll show you what we're going to do once we've finished our first row. So now that you've worked all of your squares together and you have this last corner space remaining, you're going to go ahead and work your 3 trebles into there. And then we're going to finish off the corner, so we're going to chain 3 and work the corner, and then we're going to work all the way back along the bottom section of this row. So if I just turn this upside down, I'm going to chain 3 for the corner and then work 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to work 3 trebles into the next space as normal and all the way across. And then we meet ourselves at the corner space. So we'll work 3 trebles into there because that corner is incomplete. And what we're going to do here is we're going to chain 1, slip stitch into this corner space, chain 1, and then finish off the corner of the next square, 2 and 3. And you're going to do that all the way across. So work into the spaces, into the corner, chain 1, slip stitch into the chain 3, chain 1, and then finish off the corner. You'll do that all the way across until you get to your last corner. So stop just here and then meet me back once you're ready. So once you've worked your way all the way back, we're now going to add this next row. So the only difference being is when we are going across the top, we're also connecting the top, but we're going to follow the same path as what we did before and then go all the way back before then adding the next row. So again, if I just put these out of the way, because we don't really need those at the moment, and I'm just going to flip this the other way round so that I can finish off this corner. So I'm going to work my 3 trebles, which is US double crochet, chain 3, and then turn this around. Grab the next square and then work 3 trebles into that corner space. 1, 2, 3, which is US doubles, and then we are connecting this side. So we're going to go into this very first square and then work our 3 stitches, 2, 3, join with a slip stitch, 3 stitches, 2, 3, join with a slip stitch, 3 stitches, join with a slip stitch, and then we're into the corner. So we'll work our 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3, chain 1, and then we're going to do a slip stitch into the corner space, which is diagonal to where we're working. So we'll go into that corner space from the diagonal square, slip stitch, chain 1, and then you're just going to work your 3 stitches into that corner space and continue as we have been. So you'll work down and then you'll add your next square and you'll work up. Meet me once you get to this corner space, because I'll just show you how we're going to join when there are 4 squares joining all together. Okay, so I steamed ahead without realizing that I hadn't showed you this, so I'm going to show you now how we're going to add these 4 pieces together. But obviously I've added 1 more than where you might be on your work. So we're now at the corner space, so we've done our 3 trebles into this corner. We're going to chain 3, but this time, because we are working 4 corners together, just to reduce the bulk, we're going to pull out our hook. We're going to go into the square that's diagonal from where we're working and place our hook from the front to the back. Pop the loop back on the hook and then pull it through like so, and then just chain 1 to finish. And then you're going to continue with your 3 trebles or US double crochets into that corner space, and then you're going to work your way along as normal or as you did before. So you want to work your way all the way along until you finish on this last square, and I'll show you how to connect and then continue. So now you've worked your way across for your second row. You've done started your corner. You're going to chain 1, slip stitch into that corner space, and then we're not joining anything across here, so we're just going to finish off that corner and then work into those next spaces with your 3 stitches as you did before then working your way back all the way across like we did previously. And you're going to do that until you have the amount of rows that you need. So as I say, if I turn this round, this is actually the bottom of your cardigan, and then we're working up towards the shoulder seam. So for me, I'm going to have 5 rows and 6 columns. So you need to take a look at how many rows and columns you need to do up until you get to that shoulder seam. And then I'm going to show you what we're going to do in order to work our front sections. So go ahead, pause the video, rewind if you need to get the instructions for joining, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've done your back panel, we then want to think about this very first front panel that we're going to work. Now I've added my first two already, so the way that my size is constructed is the back panel, and then we're going to have 2 rows here and 2 rows here for the front panel, missing out a section just here. So as you look at the diagram, we have the back panel and then we have this first front panel, which is what I have started here. And all we would do is, rather than going all the way to the end, we're stopping here and we're adding the next row and then the next row until you have the amount of rows that you need for your front panel to match the back panel. And then you're going to work your corner and then work all the way up this unworked side, which will take you right back to your marked stitch, where you will chain 3 and then join with a slip stitch to the top of this very first treble crochet, US double crochet just here. So you want to pause the video and then work that side, and then you're going to fasten off and then come back and do the other front panel. So the way that this is worked is by grabbing a new piece of yarn. And what you're going to do is you're going to begin with your 3 trebles in this first stitch, and then you're just going to start joining as normal. So you'll go into the first space of this square, and then you would work as you have been doing to add this other front panel. You will then come along the bottom, work up the unworked side. So chain 1, join with the slip stitch, and then chain 1, and then join to your very first treble that you've made again. So using exactly the same methods as you have done, you're going to work both that front panel and then the other panel. And then when it comes to the sleeves, you're going to just work a smaller panel. So for example, for mine, I'm going to do 3 across, build my rows, and it's only when we do that very last long edge where we haven't worked, like here, we're going to join to the main body of the cardigan. So go ahead, work this front panel, work your front panel, the other front panel, and then join your first sleeve together, leaving that last free edge, and then come back and I'll show you how we're going to add this to the main cardigan. Okay, so you should now be at the point where you've made the body, so the back piece, and then added the 2 front pieces, or connected the 2 front pieces, and that you have made 2 panels for your arms. So they will be exactly the same. This is the second one that I have made, and it was made like this. So all I have to do now is join to the body of the cardigan with this final return pass. So I've already added that to this side. I started down here, which is where the opening is, and then worked it all the way up. But I just want to show you how to do it on this side, and you can use the same technique for adding your first one. Just because when we do this, obviously as you've made it, your return pass is going to be on this side, so I don't want you to get confused. All you need to do is just rotate this round, and then we're going to be joining from the back panel first and then up to the front panel. So if I just pull this round, so here is my neck opening, this is the back panel, the front panel, and this is my sleeve with the unworked row just here. So what we want to do here is pretty much exactly the same thing. However, we are just going to do something slightly different, and this applies to both sides when it comes to joining these 2 corners together, because we haven't done that yet. So I've just worked my corner space just here. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to find this connection just here and slip stitch and chain 1, just as we have been, and then finish off working that corner space with those 3 trebles, US double crochets into that corner space, just as normal. and then we go ahead and find the next space on the main body, slip stitch, and then work our 3 trebles, 2 and 3, slip stitch, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch, 3 trebles, 1, 2 and 3, and then slip stitch, and then we'll go 3 trebles into that corner space, 1, 2 and 3. Now here we can just chain 1 and then pull up a loop. Because we're connecting these 2 corner spaces here and here, what we're going to do is we're going to insert the hook into the back panel or the main body, and then through the sleeve, pop that hook loop back on the hook, pull it through and pull it through, and then just continue as normal, working into that corner space and slip stitch. So as I say, that method of joining applies to both sleeves, but the sleeve on the second side will just have to be rotated so that we'll work in this open edge to the main body of the cardigan. So go ahead, work that, and then meet me back and I'll show you how you're going to do your seaming. So now once you've joined all of your panels together, we are going to seam the project. However, at this point you might want to block your work. Because it's going to be in one flat piece, it might be easier to do it now, or you might want to seam and then do it after. It's totally up to you. I actually ended up seaming mine and blocking mine after. But I do normally like to block when it's just in one flat panel. So you're going to place this on a block and you're going to pin out the sides, and then you're going to gently steam it so that it sits nicely into place and that your squares are really nice and crisp so that we're ready to put on the ribbing. So think about your blocking now. Or as I say, you could block it after you've done your seaming and you're almost blocking 2 thicknesses, which is what I did, but usually I prefer to do it in a flat piece. So either way, whether you do it now or after your seaming, you are going to want to block your work. So now we're ready to seam. You have your front panels, your back panels and your sleeves all connected. So what we want to do is we want to fold our work so that we have the base of the sleeves and the side seams connected like this. So this is the side seam and then this is the base of the sleeve, and we're going to take a length of yarn. So I'm going to do about 3 times the width of this section first of all. You want to make sure that the right sides are facing so that we essentially have it inside out. And we're just going to whip stitch up this seam. So we're going to go into, I'm going to go into the chain at the base here and then the chain at the base here. And attach. And then we're going to go stitch by stitch. So because I went into that middle chain, I'm just going to go into the next chain across. And then I'm going to go into the first stitch and into the next stitch and just whip stitch all the way up. And then the next stitch and the next stitch and pull, and then just keep matching stitch by stitch all the way up. And then when you get to the corner seams, you can just find the corner and then where the seams join, and then the corner before carrying on with your stitches. So go ahead, work that all the way up to the underarm and then down the sleeve. Do the same on the opposite side and then meet me back once you're ready. So unfortunately, at this point when I came to edit this video, I realised that there was no sound to this section here. So I'm going to do a voiceover, so apologies if it sounds a little bit different and that my voice and what I say doesn't match what my hands are doing. So at this point we have done our seams and you've done your blocking, and we're actually ready to add the cuff to the work. So your cuff without the ribbing will seem quite wide, and you can absolutely leave it like this if you wanted to. And if you felt like it was too short on your arm, you could go ahead and add an extra round and add the join as you go method. But as you can see with the cuff here, it really cinches it in so that it sits nicely around your wrist. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using 2 hook sizes for this. We're going to start out with the larger size that you've been using to add like a setup row, and then we're going to be using the smaller hook size. So you're going to drop down half a hook size of whatever you've been using. So I am using the 4.5mm, sorry, to begin with, and then dropping down to the 4mm for the ribbing itself. This will be exactly the same for the bottom ribbing as well as the ribbing of the front opening as well. So all these techniques that we're going to be using for the ribbing will be used for the bottom opening and the front opening. So let's go ahead and get started with our cuff. So you're going to begin by creating your slip knot and inserting that hook that you've been using throughout. We're going to join in any space after a join. So if I just look at my sleeve here, this is the shoulder seam, so I'm actually going to join just here so that any seaming from here will be at the base of the sleeve. So we have the join, and then we want to join in any space after the join. So we're just going to go into there and join with a slip stitch. Oops. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So that chain 3 counts as a treble crochet, which is a US double crochet. We're going to forget about this one for now, and then we're going to find that next space between those 2 granny sets, and we're going to work 3 treble crochets into that space, which is US double crochet, and those 3 trebles create another granny set. And we're going to do that all the way across until we get to that chain space, which is the corner space of the square before the next join. So we're just working our way across, and then we have one more, like so. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 granny sets, and then we are at this space here where we have a corner, the join, and the corner from these 2 squares which are next to each other. So in this section here we're going to create a split granny set, and the way that we're going to do this is we'll work 2 trebles in that first corner space, we'll skip the stitch, we'll skip the join, and then do a treble into that next corner space. So those 3 trebles there are counting as a split granny set. And then we're going to repeat that all the way around. So we'll work that granny set into the next 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then we'll do the split granny set with the 2 trebles, which is US doubles in this first space, skip the seam, and then 1 treble, which is US double into that next space. Do that all the way round until you get to your beginning seam, because we already have a stitch here, so I'll show you what we're going to do differently here. So pause the video and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've worked your way around, we have our first chain 3 here, which counts as the first treble, which is US double crochet. So we're going to do our 2 trebles into this corner space just here. We'll skip the seam, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of that chain 3 from the beginning of the round, and that will create that split granny set. So for round 2, we're just going to slip stitch into this first space just because it helps with the positioning a little bit more, and we're going to chain 3, which will count as a treble crochet, which is US double crochet, and then we're going to come back to this space at the end. But now what we want to do is we want to do 3 trebles into that next space, creating that granny set, and we're going to do this until we get to that split granny set. So the split granny set is just here. So we're going to work in those spaces until we get up to that point. So here's our split granny set. So what we're going to do here is we're going to work a treble crochet into this first stitch, which is a US double crochet, and then we're going to treble crochet 2 together, which is double crochet 2 together across these next 2 spaces. So we'll start our treble here, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, leave those 2 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, go into that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, 3 loops on the hook, and yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and then we're going to work 1 more treble into that same space. So we've created a granny set here, but again, it's like a split granny set, and it's a decreasing granny set because we're decreasing the amount of stitches within this round. So then you want to again do 1, 2, 3 granny sets before you then do that decreasing granny set. So I'll just show you that once more. We'll work those 3 trebles into those next 3 spaces. So that's 1 set, 2 sets, and then 3 sets, and then we'll do that decreasing granny set. So treble, which is US double, and then treble 2 together, US double 2 together, leave those 2 loops on the hook, go into that next set, you'll have 3 loops on the hook, and then pull through to create that 1 stitch, and then treble into that same space. So go ahead, pause the video, work till you've worked your way all the way round. Stop just before you get to this first set just here where we're going to do a decrease because it will be slightly different, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've worked your way around and you're at this final granny decrease, we're going to work a treble into that space, and then we're going to do a treble 2 together across those 2 spaces, and then rather than doing that final treble, we're just going to join with a slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of this round. So we're now on to round 3. We're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we're going to double crochet into the first stitch of the granny set. So this is the granny set. We're going to go into that first stitch. We're going to skip the next stitch and then work into the next stitch. And this is what we're going to do all the way around. Double crochet into the first stitch of the next granny set, skip the next stitch and then work into the next stitch. So essentially we're just skipping all of the middle stitches of the granny sets. So you just work in 1 double crochet, which is a US single crochet into the first and last stitch of the granny set. So just pay particular attention when you're working over the decreased granny set, just because the center stitch might be slightly more elongated. Let's see if we can have, so here look, the middle one is slightly more elongated, so it can be a little bit confusing if you're not familiar with what that would look like. But you're going to work this all the way round. So go ahead, pause the video, work in that first stitch and the last stitch of the granny set, missing out that middle stitch, and then meet me back once you are ready. So I've just worked my way round. I'm joining myself at the very beginning. I've done my last stitch just here. This is the chain 1, so we're just going to locate the top of this first treble and the stitch that's in there, in the top of there, and we'll join with a slip stitch. We're now ready to do the cuff, so we're going to remove our hook and then go down to the hook size, which is half a hook size below what you've been using, and we're going to go ahead and chain 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. And we're going to be working back along this chain. We're going to double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So this is US single crochet, so not the one that's on the hook. We have 1 and 2. So we'll go into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So we have 12 stitches in our ribbing. If you want to make your ribbing thicker or thinner, you absolutely can. You can just do this at this stage, chain the amount that you want, and then work into the second chain from the hook. The skipped chains will not count as a stitch. So at this point, if you want to adapt, you absolutely can. You can do this for any of the ribbing that we were doing. So go ahead and make those adaptations if you wish. But now that we have done this very first row, we're now going to anchor this to the cuff. So we want to find that next stitch. So this stitch is the one that we've just worked out from. So we're going to go into that next stitch with a slip stitch, and also go into the next stitch with a slip stitch. And then we're going to turn the work so that we can work back along that ribbing. So we're going to ignore those 2 slip stitches and go into that very first stitch, and we're just going to go into the back loop only when we're working this, so not into the full stitch like this, just into that back loop only. And we're going to work a double crochet, which is a US single crochet, in each stitch along this ribbing. The more that you build it, the easier it becomes. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and that last one, 12. Chain 1 does not count as a stitch, and then turn, and then we're going to work back down that ribbing in the back loop only for 12 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. This stitch just here is accounted for already, so we're going to go into the next stitch and slip stitch, and then slip stitch into the next stitch, turn, and then repeat. So we're going to be repeating rows 2 and 3 all the way around. So go ahead, pause the video, rewind if you need to. You're going to repeat that all the way around until you get to your last row, and then meet me back and I'll show you how we're going to finish off. So now that you've worked your way around, we're going to join this final row with the first row. So what we want to do is go into the back loop only of this very first stitch of the final row, and then find the underside of the chain from the first row and slip stitch. So slip stitch, working through both thicknesses. You're going to go into the back loop of the next stitch, and then find the underside of the chain of the next stitch and slip stitch. And you're just going to do this all the way down to close up the cuff. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way down, and then meet me back once you're ready. Okay, so once you've worked your way down, you can go ahead and fasten off. And then you just need to pull that tail end through to the inside, and you can go ahead and sew that in. And there you have your cuff. So go ahead and repeat on the other side, and then meet me back and I'm going to show you how to do the bottom ribbing. So now that your cuffs are done, we're now going to do the bottom ribbing. So you want to go ahead and turn the work so that the bottom of the work is at the top as you're looking at it, and we're going to go ahead and have it so that it's opened out and that the right side is facing you. So I'm going to start by joining in this part just here, and we're going to use the larger of the two hooks. So we're going to go ahead and create a slip knot, insert our larger hook, the main one that we've been using, and we're going to join with a slip stitch into this corner space. Chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and we're going to start off by working 2 double crochets, US single crochets into that very first stitch. Now you have a choice here. You can either keep your bottom ribbing the same width, or you can just cinch it in a little bit, which is what I'm going to demonstrate that we're going to do here today. So if you are just wanting to keep it the same width, then just work 1 double crochet into each stitch, which is US single crochet, and then when it comes to the corner you'll do a stitch in the middle of the seam, and then a stitch either side. So this is the seam, these are the corners, you'll do 1 stitch, stitch in the middle, and a stitch here. But if you're cinching in, what we're going to do is we're going to begin by doing 1 stitch in each stitch for this corner stitch. And then we have 5 granny sets all the way across. We're going to work into all of the stitches on the first one, all of the stitches in the middle one, and all of the stitches in the last one. but this second one we're just going to work into the first stitch, skip the middle stitch, and then work into the next stitch. And then the middle set will work into all of them. And then this next set will do first stitch, skip the middle stitch, and then the last stitch. And then the last one will work into all of them. 1, 2, 3. And then this seam section will just work into the corners. So I'll just show you that again. This first set, which is like the corner set, will work into all of them. 1, 2, 3. The next set we will skip the middle stitch. So do the first one, miss the middle one, do the second one. The next set will work into all of them. The next set will skip the middle stitch. So first, skip the middle, do the last, and then the next corner space will work into all of them. And then the corner one will skip the seam. So into the corner space and then into the next corner space of the next square. So it just pulls it in a little bit just to give a little bit of shaping. But if you don't want shaping, then we are going to just go into each stitch and each seam all the way across. So go ahead and pause the video, work your way across. We are actually going to end with 2 double crochets into that final corner. So as I say, pause the video and then meet me back once you're ready. So now that you've worked your way across, we're going to go ahead and switch out for the smaller hook. And we're going to do the ribbing the same as what the cuff is. However, we are going to make it a little bit deeper. So we're going to chain 16 here. That's yarn over, pull through. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16. We're going to work into the second chain from the hook. So this is going to give us 15 stitches. And what we're going to do for this bottom ribbing is, rather than just work into the chain as normal, we are going to work into the back bump of the chain. So working into that back bump, which is also known as the spine of the chain. So yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to work those double crochets into the back bump, which is a US single crochet. So as I say, we're going to have 15 stitches. And just as with the cuff, if you want to make that smaller or bigger, you can go ahead and either add or remove chains depending on your preference. So the technique is the same. You can just customize with the amount of stitches you've got in your ribbing. So just working into those back bumps with your 15 stitches. And your instructions for your ribbing is going to be exactly the same as what the cuff was. So I'll just get you started, but you can re-watch the cuff ribbing if you need to. But this first stitch is already accounted for. We're going to slip stitch into that next stitch and into the next stitch, and then you'll turn, skip those slip stitches, and then work into the back loop only of each stitch. So as I say, you're going to rewind the video if you need those instructions of how to do that ribbing again. You're going to work all the way across the bottom of your cardigan until you get to the other side. So pause the video, work your bottom ribbing, and then meet me back once you're ready. So now you've worked your way all the way across, and if you've skipped those stitches when we did those setup rows, then you'll have a nice little cinch in at the bottom. If not, it will lie flat. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to work the front opening or the collar, and we're going to work all the way round. So I haven't fastened off just here, actually some of my stitches have just come out, but I'll redo those. I won't fasten off here, and then we're going to start to build the setup rounds for the front opening, and then we're going to build this ribbing all the way around. Now again, you can adapt the ribbing however you want it to be. I'm going to do mine the same as the same width as the cuffs, so that will be that either side. If you want a little bit more coverage in the front, you can go ahead and do it as big or small as you want, basically. So I'm just going to do those stitches that have just come out, but we are going to be moving back to your larger hook size to begin this first setup round. Okay, so that's those stitches redone. I'm going to take out my smaller hook and then pop in my larger hook and then turn. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work 1 double crochet in each stitch of the ribbing. So that's a US single crochet. So I'm going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and go into that very first stitch and work my way across. I'm going to work into the full stitch, just so it's a little bit sturdier, and work 1 double crochet, which is a US single crochet, into each stitch. We're then brought to the double crochet row, which is US single crochet, which was one of the setup rows. So we're going to work 1 double crochet into there, and then that brings us to our granny squares. So what we're going to do is we're going to work 1 double crochet into the corner space, and then just work 1 double crochet US single crochet into each of the stitches. We want to keep this nice and flat. We don't want to cinch in at the front of our work. And you'll do that all the way across until you get to the corner space of that current granny square. And then when you get to the corner space, the seam and the corner space, we're going to go into the corner space, go into the seam or the connection, and then into the corner space. And then you're just going to do that all the way around. So 1 double crochet US single crochet into each stitch, and then working corner space, the seam and corner space. So go ahead, work that all the way round until you get to the other side. Do not fasten off, and then meet me back once you're ready. I just wanted to join you back quickly just to show you what to do in this shoulder seam section. So this is where we've come up the side and we're getting to the shoulder seam. We want to distinguish our square. So we've worked into those 3 stitches from this square, and then we'll work into the corner space. Then when we want to find the next corner space of the next square, so this is the square on the front, and then this is the square on the back. So we're going, the next corner space we're going to work into is there. So we can skip this seam and then we'll just work into that corner space, and then you can just continue as normal and then do exactly the same on the other side. Okay, so now you've worked your way all the way around the front opening to add this setup round. We're now ready to do the ribbing. So this is exactly the same as what we've done before. We're going to go ahead and switch out to the smaller of the hook sizes. And then for me, as I said before, I'm going to chain 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. So this is going to be the same as my cuff, but you can adapt that if you want to. And then also this time I'm going to, like the bottom, I'm going to go into the back bump, the second chain, but working into the back bump, and that just keeps that bottom edge really nice and tidy, because that's what you're going to see at the base of your cardigan. So it's not going to be worked into, whereas the cuff we could just work into the chain as normal because we were joining. So I like to, wherever we are leaving the seam free, not working into it, I like to work into the back bump so that it gives those stitches at the bottom just a really nice look. So I'm going to work my way across this chain, and I will end up with those 12 double crochets, which is US single crochets. And we're going to do exactly the same with our ribbing, and this is going to work all the way around the front opening. So if you need a refresher, I mean, hopefully you've done enough of it now, so I think you should be okay to just move forward with your ribbing and do it as you have been doing. But if not, you can rewind the video and recap either the cuff or the bottom ribbing, so that you can work this all the way around your work and you'll finish on the opposite side. So go ahead, pause the video, work your way around, and I'll meet you back shortly. So welcome back. You should now have worked your way all the way round. And what we want to do now is we want to fasten off. And then all you have left to do is sew in your ends, but you might also want to do a little bit of extra blocking just on this ribbing, especially in these corners here. Just give them a little bit of a steam and set them into place just so that they don't flick up or flick under as you're wearing it. Make sure that you go ahead and sew in any other ends that might be remaining. But you have now completed your Floral cardigan. I would absolutely love to see you wearing this or in the process of making it, so make sure that you tag me on social media. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And if you like this video, then you might also like this one too.